All right, we're back. And today I actually want to go over a few tips to help kind of combat hunger levels. So if you're someone that tends to run into issues with hunger when you're trying to diet, put yourself in a deficit, etc., you just run into essentially, I'm fucking hungry. I'm hungry. I want to eat. And I think we all know once that hunger level starts creeping up, it's very, very hard to adhere to any type of nutrition plan. There's this, and I've joked about this in other videos, there's this, I don't know, probably once you start creeping above a 7 out of 10, 10 being like starving, where you really don't care. And I've had this happen to me a lot of times. I am someone that has generally a pretty big appetite, so I've had to use a lot of these kind of tips and tricks to be successful when it comes to adhering to any type of deficit because I struggle with this. So I figured this will be helpful to a lot of people because that's probably the biggest thing that I see with people that have a hard time, again, whether they're trying to lose weight or maintain weight loss, etc., is just you have this mismatch of essentially the calories that they're intaking and what their hunger levels are like. And sometimes it's frustrating talking to other people that don't have that issue. I have a client actually still where he couldn't understand, like, why did he have to go back for seconds when he was talking about his significant other? Like, I wasn't hungry. It's like, because he's got a bigger appetite than you. Unfortunately, he just wasn't super active or whatever. So he had a very, very hard time. But again, if you're someone that really likes to eat, has a big appetite, you need to, again, either bring in some of these tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you, or you have to be pretty damn active, which is also going to be part of it. So let's kind of jump into it. So number one, I put water and just general hydration, which is kind of ironic because I've been watching these videos. I think Jordan Syatt did one where he's making fun of the people that are like, well, maybe if you're just actually thirsty when you think you're hungry, and it's like, and it is kind of funny because I don't think I've ever run into like where I'm like, I fucking want pizza, and it's like, oh, I'm actually just really thirsty. Let me just chug a glass of water. But I do think overall staying hydrated can help, and I've used this as a tool as well where I'm super duper like ravenously hungry, and what I do to almost dial down the volume of the food I'm about to eat is I'll chug some water beforehand or Crystal Light or something like that, and it does help bring down that food volume a bit, and that can save you a couple hundred calories. So play around with it. Again, I'm not saying when you're craving pizza you can drink a bottle of water and be like, oh, I guess I was just thirsty. I don't think that's going to happen, but it can maybe save you a slice or two or something. And in any way, it's good just to stay overall hydrated anyway. And this is something just talking to general population and working with general population clients that they don't do a good job with. I've worked with people that are like, I drink like 2 glasses of water a day, which is insane to me. So let's just check that off the list. Is it going to help with hunger that much? I don't know, maybe, but drink water. It's good for you. Number 2, I put down playing around with meal timing and frequency. So this is another big one. So a lot of the science, I'm not going to get super in depth with the science, but it basically means like if you put yourself in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight, regardless of the meal timing and frequency. So there's a lot of myths around like, oh, you need to eat 6 meals a day, increases your metabolism. That is not true. So there's not a huge difference when we're just looking at weight loss in isolation from, if you had twins, one eating the exact macros, but through 2 meals a day versus 5 meals a day versus 3 meals a day versus 6 meals a day. The end of the day, if the macros are the same throughout that day, it's going to be pretty much identical results. So what does that mean? Play around with it. Do what works well for you. So if you're someone that tends to be hungrier at night, then maybe backload some of your calories. If you're someone that's the opposite of that, maybe front load your calories. There's no perfect way. Well, there is. There's a perfect way for you, but that might not be the information that you get online or tips and tricks. So play around with it. Try the spacing out, having small meals throughout the day. Try having 2 large meals. Try having 3 moderate meals. Cater and tailor it to you. But there's gonna be some trial and error, and there's gonna be some fucking around and finding out. So, but you have to go through this. I've tried all of them, and it kind of depends on the days or the weeks or things like that. I used to fast a lot until that didn't work super well for me, and then I switched to this, then I switched to that. So play around with it, but just realize you can tailor the meal frequency and timing entirely to you. So when your hunger levels are higher, I'd probably consume most of my calories then. For example, for me, I'm not super hungry in the daytime. So I still actually kind of do a kind of a protein fast in the morning. So meaning I do coffee with some protein in it. And then my first meal is generally around noon because I'm just not super hungry. So it's like, but I am super hungry later in the day. So I'm going to bank and save my calories for when I personally am hungry. So that's going to be number 2. Number 3, veggies. All right. So, and the reason being for this is vegetables, and I know it's always hard when I I've worked with people like, I don't like veggies and they want to lose weight. And I'm like, I'm not, you don't have to. It's not like, oh, if you don't eat veggies, you won't lose weight or something like that. There's no like veggie barrier to entry, but it helps tremendously. And the reason being is because they're high volume, but very low calories. So why is that important? Because they help fill you up without taking a ton of calories. So for me, when I go from more of a surplus into a deficit, I have to eat a shit ton of veggies. I mean, I'll make these like salad bowls or whatever that are ginormous, these big plastic, like what you would put like a whole popcorn bag in, because I need that to fill myself up and to be satisfied. And there's no really like freebies when it comes to calories, but like green veggies specifically is going to be the closest to freebie that you can get. So it's like, let's fill up with them because they're high volume, they're high fiber and things like that. So it's going to help satiate you. And when you're controlling for calories, you just don't have an unlimited amount of calories to play around with. So veggies, again, can just help keep you satiated and full without adding too much to that calorie budget for the day. So veggies are huge. So again, play around with it. Find some you like and find ways you can prepare them. Add seasonings in them. Try on the barbecue versus sauteing versus raw or whatever. There's no perfect way. It's just what works well for you. But I'm telling you, veggies are key because of that reason. And then number 4, which is kind of piggybacking off number 3, is just sticking with lower calorie foods that are higher in volume. So the reason why the standard American diet is one of the worst diets is because it's the opposite of that. Not high in volume, but very calorie dense. So meaning you can eat a Big Mac or whatever example, and it can store about 600-700 calories in this item. You can eat it and be like, shit, did I even eat anything? Whether that means like directly at that meal, meaning you're still hungry, or you get hungry like an hour later. So think about that in reverse. It's like, we want to go to these items that are relatively low in calories and high in volume. And the easiest way to do that is what I try to do is I get my proteins from protein. I get my carbs from carbs. I get my fats from fats. You might be like, what did you just say, Chase? Thanks, Captain Obvious. Meaning, I want each individual ingredient to be that one macro. So I try not to combine all 3 of them. So that's why like a Big Mac or whatever, it's high in all 3 of those things, which makes it very, very calorie dense. So it means I'm going to get my protein from a leaner source of protein. So then it's essentially just protein and not with a bunch of fat as well. And then if I want to have carbohydrates, same thing. I'm trying not to mix them. So it's going to be a lean source of carbohydrates. So things, rice, potatoes, stuff like that. Once you start adding cheese and sour cream, all this stuff, now you're introducing another macronutrient on top of a macronutrient, but not adding that much additional volume. So I try to keep them, again, separate. So it's a lean protein, a lean carb, and then if I do have room for fats or whatever, then it would be a fat source, like an avocado, nuts, something like that. But I try not to combine them. So again, if you go to like a ribeye steak or a 80-20 ground beef, that is combining both fats and protein sources, but you're not getting a tremendous amount more volume from that. Whereas if you did, all right, I'm going to have a lean, like a chicken or a 96 4-ground beef, and then nuts on the side. You see, you almost get double for that one. So that is going to be also key, is lower calorie, higher volume foods, sticking with one individual macronutrient per item, if that makes sense. Okay. Let's see, number 5, increase activity levels. So this one, and I'll go into some of the nuances with this, but essentially the more active we are and the more calories that we burn throughout the day, the larger our budget is. So I like to give a lot of analogies with finances. So think about it like this. Say you're trying to save up for a, $800,000 house, but you only make $10 an hour, all right? It's going to be such an uphill battle to be able to save that amount of money to where it's basically not realistic. So that example would be someone that's trying to lose 100 pounds, but they get, 1,000 steps a day, or they're very inactive. They just don't burn a lot. Can they put themselves in a deficit? Technically, yes, but the calories are going to be so low, it's going to be unsustainable, and it's just not going to work long term. Just like the saving example, can you do it? Sure, you eat Tapa Ramen once a day, you live on the streets, but we all know that's not sustainable. So for that person, if they met with a financial advisor, they probably tell them, like, we need to look at your, earning potential. And then on the other example, we need to look at your burning potential. It's cheesy, but increasing their activity, their output is going to help. Now, the nuance of this one is there a threshold of you might be stimulating more hunger at some level, and then can you take the activity too far to where it's unsustainable? Sure, of course. But if you're someone that's working out maybe never or once a week and your average steps are 2,000 a day, you need to increase that. That would be, in my opinion, the lowest hanging fruit, because the diet and the calories that you need to intake to put yourself in deficit are so dang low, it's just never going to be sustainable. So for that individual, I would say let's start increasing your daily activity, whether it's through steps, riding a bike, whatever. It doesn't really matter, because it's just going to be too hard. And this is one that I personally use a lot. I need to stay active. I got the bike. I go for runs. I do 5 workouts a week. And there's part of it that I enjoy this as well. And I have different goals for all these different things. But also, I don't like eating low calories. I actually hate it. So I'd much rather push the activity side a bit harder so I can consume more calories. And so my budget is higher, essentially. So yeah, so that's going to be number 5, is just overall increasing daily energy expenditure, increasing activity, things like that. Okay, 6, I put sleep on this one. There's some research that can mess with your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. So for individuals that sleep, I don't know what the study is, under 6 hours, it was like on average they eat, 200-300 calories more a day, and you extrapolate that through a year, and it's like, oh wow, that's 15-20 pounds or something like that. Now, are these studies perfect? No, because they're also awake longer, so that could be part of it. I don't really know, but just like the water one, it's only going to help everything, in my opinion. So if you're someone that sleeps under 5 hours, I still think that's a low-hanging fruit for everything, just health in general, but it can also help shed off a few pounds as well. So sleep is going to be number 6. And then number 7, somewhat of a piggyback, is this overall stress management. I hate talking about this because it's much, much easier said than done, and I don't always have the best recommendations for this because they're extremely subjective. They're going to be different for every single individual. But a lot of us use food as comfort for stress. So trying your best to manage stress is another important one. Again, I hate giving examples, but what I put: meditation, yoga, gratitude, journaling, going outside for walks, talking with friends and loved ones. All these things could definitely help play a role of being able to overall control, calories a bit more, and just general health. But again, I very much understand, much easier said than done. So I don't want to make this too long, but let's just recap really quick. 1, I put down water. Again, just staying hydrated. 2, playing around with meal timing and frequency. 3, veggies. 4, sticking with those lower calorie, higher volume foods and trying to just go, 1 macronutrient ingredients. Number 5, increasing daily activity levels. Number 6, sleep, both quantity and quality. And number 7, stress management. All right. And all the normal YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and share below what has worked well for you. Are you an individual that had a hard time staying satiated and satisfied throughout the day, and you did a little switch in your diet or thought process and it helped you? If so, please leave it down below. Other than that, thanks for the time.